All right, cue the theme song, Rachel.
Dun, dun. Do we
We
have one?
we should get one.
We should.
We don't have one, but we should get one. Um. All right, let me make sure real fast. We are going live everywhere. Ooh, I'm out of water. That's gonna be fun. Let me pull this over here so I can keep an eye on Instagram comments. We are live everywhere that it matters. Hey, Danielle's here. That's fun.
Hello.
Danielle, how we doing? Oh, she can't hear us. Danielle, can you hear us? Oh, yeah, we can't hear you either. I actually don't have topics for us to go over today. I had like a few random things. We can chat through some different stuff. Danielle, you may need to hop off and then come back on. And try this again. Any luck now, Danielle? Can you hear us? Nothing. All right. We are live. Okay, Daniel's gonna hop off and get on our other computer. Rachel, we've had a steady stream still of new Tugboat users coming in.
Yep.
What are we seeing from people coming in now? We're 5 months after the fires, right? So as people are starting to use Tugboat, if they are using it for the fire, we have people using it for non-fire related ones as well too. What's their motivation in using Tugboat now? Are they starting to have issues? Are they just finding out about us? What do you think?
Yeah, so just finding out about us. The number one thing people ask me when they get in there is how much money do I actually have to rebuild? And so my settlement organizer, which is, a helpful hobby because I'm not an Excel guru, but
Yeah.
it does provide insight, to all the coverages and the additional and optional coverages that are attached to those basic coverages. And so that's a big thing because a lot of these people still don't have rebuild estimates.
That makes sense.
4 months out, they want to know because they're ready to move forward.
Danielle, can you hear us now?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yay!
Yeah, it's with these claims that have such a long tail on them, it can be difficult to have a sense of urgency for people this early on. Still, I mean, it's 4 or 5 months past. But with how underinsured most people were when it comes to their additional living expenses, it's fairly imperative. I mean, a lot of people are going to find a way to manage one way or another. It's funny how many ALE vendors I talked to right after this fire happened that reached out, that know me, that have rental houses, whatever it was. And it's like, hey, let us know if anyone needs a house. And we were certainly ready to, like, yeah, we'll connect people with you if they need, if it was vendors we trusted, right? And things like that. But how rare it actually was for us to make any of those connections and to help people find good vendors and things like that, because people, it seemed like, got creative or left town or moved back home or with family, understanding that they were underinsured with their loss of use coverage. It wasn't as simple as most claims, even most kind of catastrophic ones, right? If someone has a house fire outside of this event, they're still typically like getting a rental property nearby. But I think because the way these were, like, this was a community-wide event, right? So the whole neighborhood is burned down. Their friends that live nearby, maybe even their family that lives nearby, likely lost their house and is out as well. So there was less motivation for people to be like, oh, I'm going to find a rental place as close to my house as possible.
Yeah.
Right. Instead, they're like, well, what's the next best place for me to live for a while? And for some people, it's Orange County or Northern California or San Diego or Arizona. And so all that to say, people, I think, had a fairly good understanding of like, I don't have a lot of living expenses, so I have to figure out how to make that work.
Yeah. One thing that people are going to have trouble with is the delay that the insurers are causing.
Yeah.
They're going to run out.
That's what I mean. It's like now there's no, and there wasn't a lot of urgency, and there hasn't been. I mean, like you were saying, plenty of carriers still haven't delivered a rebuild estimate. And they're likely not feeling urgent about it because things community-wide generally aren't moving super fast, right? Debris removal maybe has happened at most properties, if not some. And permits are starting to get issued. But if you're a State Farm adjuster on a 3-month deployment, I just met with a State Farm adjuster that is working a daily claim on a public adjusting one. And she was sent out for a 3-month deployment thinking she would work on the fires. Rachel, you'll be really interested in this, actually. We haven't talked about this. So I met her at a house, one of our old clients, for a public adjusting one that I'm still working on. And this is a State Farm claim that's about 2 years old. I think it's on its 5th or 6th adjuster. And she was like, yeah, I've been here for 2 months. I thought I was going to work fire claims, but they were so desperate once I got here. I just have to work daily claims for the most part. But California is so unique that it really took me 2 months to really get the claims handling guidelines and structures for how things go out here under my belt. And she was a long time adjuster, like almost 20 years, I think she said. And she's like, and now that I feel equipped to do these well and efficiently, I have 1 more month left. So she was literally begging her IA firm to leave her out here for another couple months. She's like, I just got trained on how to do these specific claims, and they're still fire claims. And she said she thought she'd get 1 extra month, but no more than that. So all this to say, if you are, just map it out. Like State Farm adjusters have, and they're not the only ones, but they have a 3-month deployment out here for a catastrophe event. So say you got out here January, February, you're gone already, right? So now you're on the next adjuster, and that adjuster's likely working on supplements and debris removal payments and maybe some ALE. And they're 2 months into the deployment, like this lady was that I met. And yeah, there's an estimate that needs to get finished on the property, but is that the most urgent thing right now? Like, they're not going to start building next week. They're not, barely any permits have been issued. And so I'm only going to be here for another month.
Yeah.
And they're not going to get paid on a fee schedule from State Farm on a deployment. And if you're watching this, what that means is some insurance companies and independent adjusting firms pay on a fee schedule, which the simplest way to understand it means the larger the claim, the more you have the potential to make. It's not exactly that simple, but think of it that way. And so, but a lot of firms, specifically those that work with State Farm, I think I still am fairly active on some of the group pages, pay a daily rate. And so all that to say, there's not the incentive to make sure that you get to that full estimate before you leave your deployment, because you're making the same either way. So my point is, I think with carriers like that, large carriers, plenty of other ones as well, there isn't a lot of urgency. They'll get onto their 3rd adjuster before they get a rebuild estimate, and it's going to be from them probably driving that urgency. I mean, the claim I was just discussing where I met this lady is a 2-year-old claim on its 6th adjuster. And she was just so apologetic. She's like, I don't know why this stuff hasn't been dealt with yet. I'm like, it's like, because adjusters come for a 3-month deployment. It doesn't feel urgent. And 3 months goes by really fast when you're super busy and on deployment.
By the way, State Farm just called for deployment with pilot last week to Missouri and Kentucky component.
For what?
For the tornadoes.
Oh, really?
Component pay. But I think they're also banking on, I mean, well, whatever. I don't want to get in their head, but there's a lot of, couple of shingles missing.
Yeah, component pay is usually roof claims primarily that you're going to be dealing with, right? Because I don't know if I ever ran straight component pay claims, or there were some where it was kind of added into the fee schedule. If you did these things you might get paid on top of it. If you had to go on a 2-story roof, you got paid like an extra $25 or something like that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Pretty cool. And that was just last week.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Aaron, my co-founder at Tugboat, he and I spend a lot of time as we conceptualize what are we trying to do next at Tugboat? What are the biggest problems that we're trying to solve as a business? Because if you think of like the everyday Tugboat things, that's Rachel, that's what you and the claim support team are doing, right? You're going in, you're helping people get the templates and the tools that they need to figure out next steps for their claim. But as Tugboat, we see ourselves as hopefully an engine for some type of change in the industry that for the better long term. And so even today, he and I were talking about, to be able to steer our little part of the industry in a better direction, we need to identify exactly what problems we're trying to solve generally. And in claims, there's a lot of them, right? There's so many issues in claims. And so if you're trying to get down to the core of it, like, I can't solve the problem of incentives between insurance companies and their policyholders. Like that problem is not going anywhere. I can't solve the problem of independent adjust. Like I can't make insurance companies function differently, essentially, which is why as Tugboat, it's like, hey, we can help homeowners function differently. And in doing so, they'll help their claim go better historically, right? If they function better. So all that to say, the issues that come up because the way that an adjuster might be paid and incentivized and motivated, we don't get to have control over that. There's so little control. I think we've got several messages this week from people saying, we even had contractors tell Tugboat users, hey, reach out to Tugboat, ask them for some assistance on how you would get a new adjuster assigned to your claim.
Yeah.
What's the secret words, Rachel, to get a new adjuster assigned on your claim?
I mean, there aren't any.
There aren't any. Danielle, as a public adjuster, is it easy to get a new adjuster assigned on a claim if you don't like the person?
No, it's actually super difficult.
Yeah.
Like you could request it all you want, and they're like, no, we're not going to do that.
There's no regulation that says that they have to, right? There's no, and even if there was, they ignore regulations often that do exist, and that one doesn't exist. So there's no secret words. If someone's treated you improperly, been verifiably disrespectful on record, saying things like, there are things that we've been able to record that have gotten people moved off claims for sure, right? Like it happens.
Absolutely.
But
it has to be so like extreme type of a situation.
Yeah. Or it has to be personal. It has to be like really identifiably personable. Where on average, the issues that someone's having with a claim is they didn't get paid enough and their adjuster's ignoring them, right? And their adjuster's not addressing the questions that they're asking, right? That's if we were going to identify with one of the most common problems people have, even when they do use Tugboat and make really reasoned, well-articulated arguments to their insurance company. One of the biggest complaints that they'll still have about the process with the insurance company is like, oh my gosh, you guys helped me to understand and put together a really well-articulated dispute or outline of what's going on here, and they didn't address it. They ignored all the parts of my letter and wrote another one. And so it's at those points that people are often really frustrated and like, hey, how do I get this person moved off my claim? They're not addressing the points I'm saying. It's like, oh no, that does not cross the threshold for getting a new adjuster assigned to your claim. And I was telling this to a contractor the other day. I think it was a claim with Mercury, and Mercury has some adjusters that I'm very happy to have people negotiating with. But by and large, like, they're not one of the insurance companies that contractors or public adjusters or anyone is excited to be on the other side of a negotiation with, because they obfuscate, they ignore, they assign vendors that are really one-sided, like all these like myriad of issues. And it was the vendor was like, hey, can we, like, we need to get this. They told the user, have Tugboat help you put together an argument for getting this adjuster off the claim. And I was like, I don't even know if you want that, right? Like, it's not like the next person in line is necessarily going to be better. And
there are always worse people out there. Always.
There's always a worse adjuster. Right. I can think of the worst Mercury one, but
me too.
But there's always a worse adjuster. And beyond that, it's not like these things happen in a vacuum, meaning you don't request a new adjuster. And it's not like, I don't know, you asked ChatGPT for one. You asked a person for one who was their supervisor and is going to tell them, hey, you got kicked off this claim for this reason. And likely going to tell the next person, hey, this insured is being really difficult. They're not easy to work with. They're asking for too much. It's not like that supervisors. It's not, Rachel, you correct me if I'm wrong, because you worked for carriers a little bit more directly than I did. And even though you weren't staff, but I wouldn't say that the job of an adjuster is a customer service first job in many ways, meaning that there are many industries that if you are a server at a restaurant, right? Like, it is all about, like, more so like the customer is always right. We're very much trying to make you happy from here to there. And there's lots of service jobs and other jobs, even the contractor, right? If you're the contractor on a claim, the adjuster is a dual fiduciary. So they represent your insurance company and somewhat your interests. But it is not often that a supervisor on a claim, in my experience, was like, hey, this person's unhappy and that is reflecting poorly on you.
Yeah. No, we had, I've had a claim. I've had 2 claims moved from me before. And one of them,
I didn't know you were that type of adjuster, Rachel.
It was really just personality conflicts, but I had a couple other people ask. Actually, maybe I've only had one, but I've had 2 people ask.
Gotcha.
And it was just simply personality stuff. And when those people talked to my manager totally took up for me, well, she hadn't done anything wrong. Like, I mean, here's the law. Like, here's her job function, and she's done everything. Maybe there's a communication gap. And that was like, it was, he really did. He defended me, and it was actually very perfect. There was one that I got moved from. I don't remember this one at all, really. Yes, I do. I remember it now. Yep. And so he still defended me, but kept it on his team. That's the thing. Yeah. When it's moved from one adjuster under a supervisor, it's probably going to stay within that team. So that manager is going to keep oversight on it. He's going to keep his eyes on it. So whatever discussions were had by that initial adjuster with the manager, that adjuster has been affirmed.
Yeah.
That manager. So he's going to keep affirming no matter where it goes. And really, like you said, there is a customer. If you're the adjuster for a carrier, you're pretty much the customer facing deal.
Yes, exactly.
You don't really make any decisions, not really. You kind of scan it for the coverage, but really the decisions aren't made by you, not really. So
absolutely,
you're like customer service 0.05, right? Like, or 0.5, and then your manager is like customer service or adjuster 1, like, really. So
I'm going to share on Instagram real fast that we're live because it seems that's how people typically might find it.
Emily's here, by the way. Hi, Emily.
We always love having Emily here. I didn't see that. Oh, that's really interesting, Emily. I don't have the details of. Let me turn my volume down on my phone while I screenshot this. I don't have the details of your rental situation, and just if you can type in to the chat, what was it? How did you end up getting taken advantage of? If you don't mind sharing, like what was it that went wrong, or do you feel like could have gone better? I'd be curious to.
Oh no, she would have taken advantage of our help.
I understand that. Yeah, she would have taken advantage of our help, but how does she feel? Oh, you would have taken advantage of our rental help. Like what do you feel like could have gone better potentially with your rental, and what did you guys settle on? I guess that makes sense. Maybe there weren't any big issues. All right, let me share this on the Instagram real fast. I have a problem that pretty much any screenshot I do of me, I'm always frowning. And it's not my fault. I'm a happy person. I promise.
That's great.
Let me finish this. All right. All right. While we wait for Emily to share that. So we were talking about, this is the point that I was going to make, is that you don't know who's on the next person in the claim, not just the next adjuster, but and we will tell people oftentimes, go ahead and try and get a hold of a supervisor, right? Try and talk to someone with some more authority, but not every supervisor is super helpful on a claim, right? Some of them are the most frustrating claims individuals that we've had to deal with as public adjusters, as advocates. And so I think what I'm trying to say is that, there's no guarantee that what the insurance company is offering you as far as claims representatives and assistance is going to get better. And so what we're trying to do at Tugboat oftentimes is just be like, hey, this is where the situation is right now. These are the questions you can ask, the steps that you can take to try and present your case a little bit better, make sure things are documented really, really well, and hopefully step by step get it to a better spot. So Rachel, it makes me want to ask, as I'm talking about kind of the myriad of steps that it takes to get a claim to a better spot, typically, how many reports? So the way that Tugboat operates is that we will create templated reports for people based on their requests, right? That they can use and edit and change. And we're probably surprised at how often and how much people change them, which is great. We want them to personalize them. But all that to say, I went into someone's Tugboat account the other day and checked on it. And I think they had 12 reports they had sent from Tugboat to the adjuster, which I thought was amazing. And that one was still stuck, right? Maybe that's not common, but how many reports do you think it typically takes before someone sees positive movement on their claim on average?
It's hard to tell with these smoke ones. So I'm gonna speak to other types of damage, right? Because this is such I would say probably, and on average, depending on the adjuster, I would say at least 7, but that it varies, because you've got to start speaking the adjuster's language. Like if you're using Tugboat and you're new to us and your claim is not smoke related, because that's special right now. I have to tell you,
Yep.
it's there's a lot of government agencies involved and lots of other things that affect the moving parts. But let's talk about a water loss, like in Kansas. All right. Totally unrelated to this. I need every document that they've ever sent you because I need to know the tone they're taking and the stance, the position they're taking, you know. And if they said to you verbally, "Oh, that's not covered," and that doesn't, I need to see why. Like, did they provide you a denial letter? Because if they didn't, and at any rate, so I get all this information and I start writing reports that really kind of address the stuff that happened before, if I need to, if it wasn't really all in order like it should be. So there's something, but I would say 7, honestly. Like we need to have as much backstory as possible so we can try to fill in the gaps and make it whole, because we need the whole picture, right? So once we get all those things out of the way, I would say probably maybe 5. You know what I mean? But I think there's probably two reports on average that go just into establishing really what position they're taking, and then we can move forward and start really addressing.
It's so funny you're talking about establishing the position someone's taking, which reminds me I have to send a message to one of our attorney friends that was checking in on something for me. That's it. That's sent now. Anyways, there's a claim that I am a public adjuster on one of the fire ones. I'm only representing a couple. This one's as a favor to a friend. And the adjuster refused to pay for a testing invoice on this one. Rachel, we haven't talked about this. You'd be, we should dive into it. You'd enjoy the ridiculousness of it. And so we had a phone call about it, and they were going to pay for part of the testing invoice is what they decided, is what he told me on the phone. And I disputed why I thought that wasn't valid, but I said, okay, just send me a denial letter for it. And I was like, that way I know exactly precisely what position you're taking and what policy language you're using and the basis on which you're denying it. And I'm not trying to be rude with that, right? It's like, I just need to know, like you're saying, like I need to establish the policy reason why, so I can know what my dispute is. As we've learned with Tugboat, like some of the policy reasons is like, oh, this is so ridiculous. This is easy to argue, right? We have one recently that they called a condensation line from a HVAC unit that broke and poured out a bunch of water. And they said, well, we don't cover condensation. It's like, that's not what it's talking about. This should be pretty easy. It's not easy on that one. But it's like, oh my gosh, you made like such a ridiculous argument. So anyways, I wasn't being snarky or rude in any way and saying like, can I have a denial letter on this? And then eventually I tried to reaffirm in writing later that day of like, hey, you said you're going to pay for this, and not, I think you should pay for it for these reasons. And he responded and said, well, we're not paying for any of it anymore. And I said, okay. And literally I was just like, okay, go ahead and like, please send me a denial letter for it. And he said, we're not denying it. He said, we're using our own vendor to do our own testing. And so we're paying for that expense. And he used weird language. Like we're paying for an equivalent expense and not utilizing your testing results or something like that. But it was like, he was trying to avoid having to say that they were denying it by just like pretending it didn't exist. I'm not even kidding. And I haven't had the chance to fully follow up on it. It was yesterday or something like that.
Well, the 40 days are ticking.
I know.
I mean, you got to do something with it.
No, Rachel. They're not denying it or approving it. It's just it's not anything. And this is a long time veteran adjuster, been doing it for a long time. So, anyways, we should answer Emily's question or talk about it because she put a comment in here. Being a homeowner for so long made us forget how difficult it is to look for rentals. That's such a good point, especially that allows pets. And there was a lot of demand in the weeks right after the fire in the San Gabriel Valley. So we stayed down near my parents where we initially evacuated to. Yeah, there are people actually I had just recently talked to who since the fires were staying with a friend, like on their couch or something like that. And no one was getting paid any rent. The adjuster didn't offer it. And then was like trying to get them into a hotel. And it was clear they were going to be out for a long time. They weren't a total loss. But all that to say, yeah, there were some situations very early on where some adjusters were so accommodating and helpful when it came to additional living expenses and send us this info, we'll be good to go. And other ones, I don't really know what the motivation was and what the guidelines may have been around claims handling. But where it should have been easy to be like, okay, if you're staying with friends or family, if write up a lease so we can make sure to pay them for the rent if that's relevant there, right? And I will typically tell people to do that, regardless. Like, well, it's friends or family. I'm like, look, you're not staying there for a week, right? You're not staying there for even a month, most likely. Like it will be best for the vast majority of people to set up like an established, I'm renting some space for you relationship, so that you can get into a rhythm as a renter, right? Not as I'm sleeping on your couch, I'm sleeping on the floor, yada, yada, yada. So yeah, Emily, a lot of the help we were doing afterwards was just helping people understand their rights. Like they're like, oh my gosh, so like my family can get paid for me to stay with him. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They're going to get W-9 for it, but whatever the equivalent value is of renting a furnished space, if it's furnished. So yeah, there's a lot of things that people didn't know around additional living expenses. And again, some insurance companies, I think, were really accommodating and helpful with that. And other ones, I don't know. What do you think it is, Rachel? Like, why do you think it's a guidelines and education thing? Do you think some carriers were like, hey, if they're staying with family, like, let's not pay unless they submit a lease on their own?
I think the adjusters probably knew and they didn't ask for it, so they didn't offer it.
I guess right? It's just more work at that point. So why?
Yeah, don't offer it because, oh my gosh, I mean, that's just another document I have to rifle through or some that's other. True. But that could also be that the adjuster was new, so not totally selfish, just selfish in the not educating yourself part, you know.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, I know. When I first started, I didn't. I don't remember being told to offer ALE, and we were in a evacuation situation. And the carrier I worked for at the time, they actually, I think 3 days after, when it was full on civil, like mandatory evacuation for Lake Charles, they were like, oh, so let's offer, this carrier offered them mandatory evacuation expenses on a negotiated basis. So you're going to be out of your home traveling. So we're going to give you, how does $30 per person per day sound? Yes. Great. I'll forward it I'll get it in your account right now. Mm-hmm. That's really cool. But it didn't really take care of the longer term, like what happened when I get home and my house is still like gone or something like that. So, but it really, it has to do more with how prepped the carrier is for what's happening.
Yeah.
You know?
And additional living expenses is one of the coverages where adjusters need to get more creative oftentimes to make sure things are explained correctly. So I mean, we had tugboat users saying they were being denied the cost of transportation because they used to live down the street from their office and now they didn't have a car, right? So they used to walk to the corner to go to work. They couldn't do it anymore because the whole neighborhood was burned. So they were several miles away. So they were paying for public transportation to get them there. And it's like, this is a really valid additional living expense.
Yeah.
Really valid. It's cheaper than you buying them a car, right? Or whatever else it might be. And, but they were having a hard time explaining that to their adjuster. And again, it's because it's one that things are a little bit more abnormal and you have to be creative in how to do it. Emily says their adjuster only offered to pay ALE if they moved into a hotel, which is another thing. People will say, adjusters will often say something like, well, we only owe for a hotel after somebody's house is damaged. we only owe for a hotel plus 2 meals a day, or we and XYZ, right? We owe for this, but not this. And the policy language around additional, I mean, Rachel, you can probably find some. Explain, like, what is the general policy language around what qualifies as additional living expenses and what they're supposed to pay for?
And any increase you incur, like you have to incur the increase to maintain your lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say this, lots of people said that they had asked for a list of things from their carrier. I saw that very common in tugboat correspondence that they had sent to their adjuster. And I suggested stop asking for that, because this is the most liberal part of your coverage, and it could be anything. So don't ask for a list, because you're drilling down too far. But it's anything. It's that lift that you have to take now to run your errands when your husband goes to work and takes the car. It is, I haven't quite figured out how to present this yet, but it's charging your EV when you charge it at home. But that's not gas or mileage. I don't know how to, I don't know how to do that yet. We were looking for some guidance from the adjuster, and they were like, nope, it's not covered. I know that's not true. So I'm not there yet how to do it.
Yeah, I think that the one thing that I've realized that some people are prepared to do well with their additional living expenses because they were budgeters before.
Right.
They kept track of their expenses and receipts naturally. Right. And so when it came time to do it for additional living expenses, it's just not that challenging for them.
Yeah.
But one of the challenges with a claim is that it shakes up your entire life. You're living somewhere new, you're managing repairs, and now you have to be good at budgeting as well, like with your personal life. If that wasn't your thing before, like, oh, we didn't really live with a budget before, but now you need to figure out, like, why do you have a deficit of $500 a month? And you have to go into your expenses and figure out, is it charging your EV at the rental place? Is it that now you're eating out 3 extra times per week because of where you live and what's convenient and things like that? And so it's a pretty big lift for people to try and sort that out oftentimes.
It is.
Let me see what else Emily is saying here.
Yeah. Emily's adjuster that's just not right.
Yes, clarification. He said that when we were living with family, when we gave him a copy of the rental lease, he started paying for that. Okay. Clarification. He said that while we were staying with family, when we showed him our lease, he started to pay for it. Wow. Yeah.
He obviously got additional guidance in between that initial conversation and,
I mean, yeah, and I didn't have any training around additional living expenses as an independent adjuster.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that could be what you're coming up against with your adjuster, is just that they just don't have that much training, period, around the issue that you're trying to overcome. All right, Rachel, and Danielle. Danielle, you're working public adjusting claims with Waypoint. You have some smoke ones, some total loss ones. With where the smoke ones are right now, what is the stage that those are at? Are people moving back into the neighborhoods in Altadena already? Are things getting approved? Are attorneys getting involved? Kind of where's the average going on with those claims?
I would say on average, I mean, nobody's moved back home yet on any of my claims. There was one in the Palisades that the adjuster was like, oh, well, they should be back home already. And obviously total losses are literally across the street, stuff like that. And it's an elderly couple, medical issues. There's all kinds of different reasons why they can't just move back home yet. And so, but he did end up extending it for at least another month. So I'm like, okay, now I guess we're just going to have to make this argument every month.
Have you been into the Palisades, Danielle?
Yeah.
It takes forever as well.
Yeah.
Can you imagine having to move back in? And it's going to be like that for a long time, even though they opened PCH back up. There is so much construction nonstop going on there that the amount of additional expenses you would have just in time and driving and everything else, like it's an extra, hour plus just in like once you get to Malibu, trying to get into the Palisades and then back out as well.
Yeah, it's a mess. So, I mean, so far, nobody's moving back home yet. At least that one, I got another extension. But it seems like some adjusters are reasonable and they're like, yeah, we're going to extend it for 6 months, and other adjusters are like, oh, we're going to have to do this on a month-to-month basis, and it's just kind of ridiculous. But most of the claims are in like supplement process. Some of them are doing good. Like some adjusters are agreeing to things that I was kind of shocked on, and where I thought I'd get pushback, I haven't. And it's interesting though, because I have a handful of our favorite carrier, State Farm, and it's like they're paying for stuff on one claim and not on another. So I'm like using them against each other kind of a thing, where I'm like, well, you're paying for this over here, but not over here, and vice versa. So I haven't.
That's when they get to pull out their favorite line from their favorite script.
I know.
Do you remember it?
What?
Do you remember it?
Each claim is adjusted on its own merit.
There we go. I wish you had known that already, Danielle. You wouldn't have to argue with these adjusters anymore.
I'm still gonna do it. I'm still gonna push for it.
There's got to be some continuity.
Yeah. It's funny. I love the times when I've gotten to use, like, every once in a while I get to use it back on an adjuster when they'll be like, well, no, I've never paid for that before. And be like, hey, every claim is adjusted on its own merit. This one might be so unique that you've never seen anything like it before.
I love it.
It doesn't usually work. It's just a moment for me to be snarky if I need to. Anyway, so beyond additional living expenses, though, Danielle, what are the sticking points on non-total loss claims? Partial fire, heavy smoke, heavy soot, char, and ash. Are they paying for abatement of asbestos? Are they repainting? Are they replacing HVAC units? Things like that.
I haven't had any positive asbestos tests yet on any of my claims, so it's all lead. Some of them are extremely heavy lead levels, and so they are sending abatement companies out to provide an abatement estimate. That one in particular, I haven't received just yet as far as their abatement estimate. And even ones that are, super high, like at least not super high in lead, but enough lead to, I think, require abatement. They're like, oh, well, the amount of cleaning you're going to do, like, should be fine. Like, this is they're still like sticking with their regular cleaning estimate, So it's hit or miss, like, going on right now. I would say I have one Mercury claim who is like the absolute worst adjuster that I've dealt with so far.
Tell us what's the challenge on that one?
It's one of those things where, like you were saying, like you'll email him a list of questions or things that you want a response or an update on, and he'll pick like one and just focus on that. And it's like, maybe I need to send him 5 different emails in what, with one like subject only. I don't know if that's the issue, where he's just like skipping over everything else and just answering one question at a time, or what. But he's also saying that he's not going to pay anything above what his particular vendors are estimating for. So if we submitted an estimate from another contractor or abatement company or whatever it is, he's not going to pay it, basically, is what he's saying.
I bet I know his name.
What's that?
I bet I know his name.
There's
only 2 that it could be, to me. Like, you're just that obstinate.
I was talking to somebody else this week about, they were just really curious about what is the dispute resolution, like, how do you get a lot of people that reach out, whether it's to Tugboat or to Waypoint as for looking for public adjusting services, is that they want to know like, hey, what's the secret thing you're going to do to make them pay? Like, and it's like, oh, it's actually not anything magical. I'm going to dive into all the details of all this stuff. And so, because they were asking specifically about that, like, well, this vendor I have for abatement, I have this specific one. So it came back positive for asbestos and partial fire damage to the outside of the house, a lot of smoke, super, super heavy Camarillo area. Came back positive, really high for asbestos in the char and ash inside the house, some lead as well. They got 3 different estimates from abatement companies for the decontamination work that needed to happen. And they sent in all 3 and said, hey, we're super happy to go with the cheapest out of these. They're really professional. And the adjuster said, we're going to send out our own company to give a competitive bid, which is in and of itself funny. It's like, well, you have 2 competitive bids.
Right.
But it's like they have the right to investigate however they want to, so they can come out and get a competitive bid. And the owner was asking, well, what are you going to do if that bid comes back and it's $10,000 less than this, but we don't like the company and they don't seem trustworthy or whatever it is? What are you going to do? What do we say at that point? And it's like, oh, I'm going to dive into their estimate and we're going to try and find, are they actually addressing the full scope that this other company said they were going to do? And if they're not, did they forget something? Are they missing something? Are they not going according to guidelines? It's like, it all ends up being very detail oriented.
Yeah.
Right. It's not,
absolutely.
It's not. And I think because insurance and claims have been so simplified even in marketing, right? It's like be protected from mayhem. Like me is like, I walked by, oh, we've paid for that. Right. And it's like, everything seems really simple. Right? I pay insurance. I pay for premiums. You give me insurance. Damage happens. You pay. I saw someone sent me a screenshot of a Lemonade ad that said like, it's about time that claims were paid instantly, because they've paid some claims instantly. It's like, I think it's about time that claims were paid accurately, but I don't think people
right?
care as much about instantly. Well,
why can't you both?
What's that? Why can't it be? Well, yeah, it can't be quicker. And I mean, you wish that they were building both of those skills into the tools. They're just not doing it a lot of the time. Some of the places. For this dispute though that we were talking about, is that the homeowner essentially was asking like, oh, what's the argument that you're going to make for it? I'm on a video, buddy. I can't do it right now, but I can come help you in about 10 minutes. I know. Can you go? I'll come back out in 10 minutes. Okay. My son wants to fly kites. It's windy outside, and it hasn't been windy in a while.
Wow.
I love the little voice.
He's wearing a Spider-Man costume as well, so it's super cute. Anyway, so the client is asking me, what's this like argument that you're going to use to get past them when they pull this move where they submit a bill that's lower, a vendor that's lower? It's like, I'm gonna have to go into it and see why it's lower. And if it's lower for legitimate reasons, then we're going to argue those and try and get them to approve it. And which is what you're going to have to do, Danielle, with this vendor with Mercury. And it's a pain in the butt, but it's like, oh, I'm going to have to do it with every single one.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, your vendor for cleaning the contents is less. Well, what are they actually doing?
What's missing? Yeah.
Or what's missing from them? Or what are they not doing? Because they all use the same software.
Right.
Right. And if it's estimated according to how that software said, the price should be similar, right? Maybe they have some different amount of hours.
There we go. You were frozen for a moment.
Weird. Yeah, it said my connection was lost for a second.
Probably the wind.
Yeah, could have. Very minorly breezy outside. It could have been that. But all that to say, so the work of a public adjuster is getting into those details. Sometimes like it can be fun to have a good negotiation with the other adjuster, right? And be like, no, can we settle on this? Can we, let's like, but it's like, that is 5% of the job, getting to really negotiate. The rest of it is articulating to them
The need.
what's missing and why it should be there.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
that's just detail oriented work that takes a little while.
We're doing tugboat too.
Same.
I'm training people how to look at their estimate and help them make arguments for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I was successful in getting so far one HVAC replaced completely, which I was like, yay.
Yeah.
Because that's been part of the battle is the HVAC systems. They're like, oh, just clean it, some are replacing at least the duct work, which is cool, but not the actual unit. I think it's, it's also, every claim is different, and every adjuster is agreeing to different things at this point. I wish it was like, okay, I've got 10 State Farm claims and I'm dealing with one adjuster on all of them. You know what I mean? That would make life so much easier. But
what about, so let me ask you this. And I don't know. So as far as this lead desk goes, what parts per million is acceptable for lead desks?
I don't think there is an industry standard, right? That's the argument that they'll make, is that it's not 5 or.
See, I thought no acceptable amount of lead. There was no acceptable amount of lead, like ever. That's one of the. It's like asbestos. Like there is no acceptable amount.
I think I don't know the exact amounts, but I know that there should be a level to where it's like, okay, above this amount, because like on this mercury claim, they that's why they sent out an abatement company, was because the levels were so high with lead.
Oh, I see.
So there should be some type of marker to where it's like, okay, anything above this amount, we need to do an abatement versus just
I just go straight to the recommendations. I typically, I'm looking at a hygienist report, I go to the recommendations. I ignore everything else. Like, tell me what's recommended, because that's all we can argue on.
Maybe that's something we can dive into on another office hours, is like testing results and levels and things like that.
Yeah, it'd be a good idea. I'm gonna hop off, or we can all hop off a couple minutes early today. But yeah, maybe next week let's talk about testing results. We've gone into those before. And Rachel, if we talk about it, maybe if there were some letters that people sent that we helped them with templates from Tugboat that were successful, like what would or some pieces of them that seemed like, oh, like it was language like this. Let's maybe share some of that next week as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Sounds good.
Thanks everybody. We will see you next week. Appreciate ya.
Bye.
Bye.